An electoral commissioner has announced her resignation and cast doubt over the credibility of the presidential poll just 8 days before voters cast their ballots on October 26. The Associated Press says Rosalyn Akombe was speaking Wednesday from New York, but it was not clear why she was there. Akombe is urging electoral commissioners to speak up because the new presidential elections cannot meet the basic expectations of credibility. She cites election staffers are getting last-minute instructions on changes in technology and electronic transmission of results. Kenya's Supreme Court nullified President Uhuru Kenyatta's August re-election, citing illegalities and irregularities. Also on Wednesday, Kenya's Election Board Chairman Wafula Chebukati said it was difficult to guarantee a credible presidential election.
I've made several attempts to make critical changes, but all my motions have been defeated by a majority of the commissioners. Under such conditions, it's difficult to guarantee a free, fair, and credible elections. I therefore call on the staff who have been adversely mentioned to step aside to allow this project team to function without interference. I'm extending an open invitation to the candidates to a meeting that I'll preside over so that they can talk. Once the Kenyan people see that their leaders are talking and are putting Kenya first, then we can douse the tension in the air.
Addressing religious leaders at State House Nairobi, President Uhuru Kenyatta says the path the country has taken since the Supreme Court's decision to invalidate his win has not been easy, and asked Kenyans to pray for the country and all leaders across the political divide.
The first step, and one which I hereby call for, is an extended period of prayer and reconciliation this weekend. After consultation with religious leaders, I have reached this decision to call on all Kenyans to pray for their country in their mosques, temples, and churches, culminating in a national day of prayer on Sunday. For the truth is that the politics of the day are fleeting. But this nation, under God's care, will endure.
A senior Kenyan analyst at the International Crisis Group, Murithi Mutiga, says given the constrained timelines and the heated electoral process, it does not look feasible to have an election without all parties involved reaching a consensus.
It's essential that all the parties recognize that it's not feasible to just ram ahead without consensus, without consultation, and perhaps they need to back down and speak to each other rather than at each other. It's encouraging that in the last few minutes, the president has said he will call for a day of prayer and national unity on Sunday. It's also heartening that the opposition leader has called off street protests. We hope that now all sides will recognize that it's in the best interests of the country to pull together, find out some fashion of consensus, and agree a way forward that carries the greatest number of Kenyans forward together.
Now joining us live via Skype from Nairobi is Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori. Good evening, Vincent. And it was only yesterday that the opposition leader Raila Odinga suspended the demonstrations against IEBC. Now, moments ago, we understand he has said there will be countrywide demonstrations from his party on October 26th, the day the rerun is scheduled. What more can you tell us?
Yes, Esther, two things have taken place. Raila Odinga has taken a cue from the chairman of the IBC that of definitely the conditions on the ground do not lend the elections to be possibly conducted in a credible way. He seems obviously emboldened right now and validated when he says that the Electoral Commission is not in a state where it can actually conduct elections because it's compromised. And he has rescinded his earlier decision about the protests. He has called for protests on the day of the election and decided that now the slogan actually changes from no reforms, no elections to no elections in October. But something else has happened. Earlier on, President Uhuru Kenyatta called for prayers. But soon after the statement by the chairman of the IEBC, President Kenyatta made it clear that he intends to go on with the preparations for the elections, that the elections will take place on the 26th, and is not interested in having any meetings, any talks in relation to those elections. So that, again, creates a complication for the chairman. Now, some times back, I spoke to the commissioner of the IBC, who is now former commissioner, Rosalind Akombe, and asked him whether it is true that, in fact, the IBC is compromised. But she took a different position. Let's take a listen.
It is a perception that is here, and we've been working very hard as a commission to take away that perception, because the reality is that all of us wake up in the morning with only one goal, of ensuring that we have a free and fair and credible election that we deliver to the Kenyan people. And we do not take instructions from anybody. I mean, as the commission has come out on several occasions when we have perceived that somebody is speaking on our behalf, and we tell them we have 7 commissioners here who can very well speak on their own, and we've asked nobody to speak on our behalf. So I think those are more perceptions rather than the practicality, actually, of how decisions are made by the independent commission here.
So, Vincent, given all these new developments, what happens if the rerun does not happen, doesn't take place?
So, first, we know that Dr. Akombe has confirmed that it's true. The commission now is compromised. What she was saying earlier wasn't true. But now, if the elections don't take place on October the 26th, the Constitution requires that there be a caretaker government, that President Uhuru Kenyatta ceases to be the president of this country by November 1st. And therefore, by the Constitution, the Speaker of the Parliament will become the acting president for 90 days, upon which both parties or all parties involved will prepare for nominations for a new election within 90 days. That is the scenario if an election does not take place on the 26th of October.
Wow, very unusual times in Kenya. Vincent, thank you so much for your insight into this.
Thank you.
Vincent Makori is Africa 54 managing editor, reporting live via Skype from Nairobi.